So it looks like is this on?
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like an airplane. Can you explain the difference between that and a regular airplane in terms of the design and the efficiency of the cost of bringing a person from point A to point B?
Okay, the Airtrain is made utilizing older airplanes or older airliners. So we're not producing a brand new product. It's two airliners. This is two airliners basically joined together like this, and it can carry anywhere from 350 to 500 to 500 plus, and can travel at a speed of 125 to 500 miles per hour. Therefore, the cost is 1/10 of what the cost of the airliner. So this is a very cheap, and you can pack a lot of people. This particular model, if I were to use this Airbus 350, you can pack 700 people.
We have another question over here.
I saw some videos on your website, and it was really cool. The one I saw was one of these airplanes flying on a track that had sidewalls, and it kind of looked the same way as like a subway, where it kind of keeps it on the track.
Yes.
I've seen tons of train tracks across this nation that are just open. Does this thing work on an open track, or do you have to have those sidewalls that I saw in your video?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. Basically, the Airtrain will require nothing. The reason being is, all those speed trains that we have in the world today have some kind of an infrastructure that you got to build, and the infrastructure, that's where the cost is. A lot more than the speed train itself. So, yes, this Airtrain does not require, and if it has controls and functions just like the airliner, except airliners fly, in the 18,000 to 350,000 feet to get the most fuel economy. But the Airtrain will fly within 200 feet above the surface. It can be any surface. It can be over the water, it can be over the grounds, or it can be over the concrete. And it has all the controls, and it'll be controlled by a computer, onboard computer, to make it safe and then also operated at a fast speed but safe.
So theoretically, this could be implemented without creating new tracks specifically for your airplane. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to understand that.
Yes, you're right.
So where do you anticipate this being able to be flown if it's not, like we don't see normal airliners that are in the 18,000 foot range
Right.
looking like that. So I'm not a physics major or anything, but
Yeah.
I would think that there's some restrictions. So if it flies 200 feet above the surface, where that's not very high. So
Yeah.
where do you anticipate this going with the current, civilization development?
Yeah, there's, let me go back and show you the slide. This is what in the 70s they were trying to do. Even the Boeing, they tried to build this ground effect vehicle. So it's something not new. It's an old technology actually, and this thing is huge. It's 150 meters the wingspan, and it can carry up to 1,400 tons. And the 747 is only 735,000 pounds. And then Russians also did a thing called Caspian Monsters, and this thing is bigger than 747, flying over the water. So yes, it will fly over the waters, just like that. But unlike those two, this will be land-based, meaning it will take off and land on land. What they were trying to do is they were trying to take off from the water, and that's why the shape are so much different. With the Airtrain, and it can fly over, you can, fly over the freeways, where the cars are going, and you can have this thing fly over the freeways. It can be on the desert, or it can be on the water, or it can be out in the snow, in cold environments. But yes, it's like with all things. When it's beginning, you got to work out a lot of details. Like when the airplanes first flew over the sky, there was a lot of things that wasn't, the rules and everything else wasn't there. But once this thing gets off the ground, I'm sure that we can work out a lot of details so that it can be operated safely.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Good morning. So my guess is this falls under FFA regulations,
Yes.
and so I'd be curious to see if you're interacting with them or if there's a process to engage with them. And I'd like to hear a bit more on her question about the terrain that you can actually fly this thing on, and how close can you get to cities and metropolises where people are going to want to come in and out of? Because it sounds like you might have to stay outside of cities in order to move that size of a vehicle around.
Yes, thanks for the question. The first one is FAA. I've talked to the FAA, and in fact, I had one FAA gentleman says this is a great idea, that it needs to be explored. And all the FAA requirement is to certify a vehicle whenever you have people getting on board or shipping cargo. Yes, the safety is a must, and we will follow the FAA rules in getting this thing certified. And once that process starts, we'll be working closely with them to certify this vehicle so that it can be operated safely. With the other questions, basically, once it's built, once it's built and certified, it will also abide by the rules of FAA too. So meaning that person who's flying this thing is going to be, mostly it's all computer. But in case, if the digital does go down, then you have an analog system, a backup system, where the pilots who will be certified, just like the airline pilots, would able to safely land the vehicles. Basically, yeah, it will be able to land safely when anything happens. And pilots would have to be certified, would have to follow the FAA rules when it's flying anywhere. And at the same time, the vehicle will be certified just like the airliners.
Okay, great. I have another question here.
Hello. You mentioned about Vegas was trying to work on a project for a train system from here to Los Angeles or to California. With your model, what would be the time? I guess how long would it take, if it's built from here to California compared to driving or, just catching a flight?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. The cost is $60 billion project, and this is Airtrain, but at the same time, the air train, meaning it's like airplane, and it's a train, meaning that you can pack a lot of people, meaning twice as size of an airliner, so you can pack twice as many people, and at the same time, therefore the cost will be cheaper because you're putting more on, and then you only have 2 pilots flying it, and the speed-wise, you can go anywhere from 125 to 500 miles per hour. So it's faster than any existing speed train in the world. If we get this thing made and fly it. And therefore, you're looking at maybe from Las Vegas to LA, a little over an hour. And there are a lot of people on the highways and freeways, and we choose to drive car because it's convenient and the cost is cheap. But if we have something like Airtrain, I think more people will consider flying this thing instead of driving cars because it takes what 4 to 5 hours, and sometimes with the accidents and traffics and stuff like that, it can be a lot longer. And at the same time, there's no cost involved in building an infrastructure.
Ryan, could you go into a little more detail as to how the ground effects work?
Yeah.
And the fluid dynamics? I mean, by understanding, I have a very basic
Yeah.
understanding of this, but most ground effect vehicles you see are 3 to 4 feet off the ground. They don't get any higher than that. How does your vehicle work when it's 200 feet off the ground with varying, you have hills, mountains, etc.? How does the vehicle work in that sort of terrain?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question too. It's something that this particular model that you'll see in the actual production may be a little bit different than this, but I mean will look more similar to this. And this is a class 3 ground effect vehicle, meaning that it can be in ground effect a couple hundred feet off the ground, but at the same time, if you have to clear obstacles like mountains and hills, you can climb just like normal airliners. And once you clear the obstacle, then you would go back to the ground effect. The reason that you want to fly in ground effect is just like airliners, they go up high as possible to get the most fuel mileage. And the ground effect basically, and I'm not an aerospace scientist or the mathematician either. And for us to understand, for most of us, we don't have all that knowledge. But basically the ground effect, you can imagine that having a balloon full of air underneath of your vehicle, okay? So when it's up in the air, it's not affecting anything. But when it's close to the surface, it's like it's supporting by itself.
So you're saying though, when it's up in the air, you're flying with normal jet engines?
Yes. So this would have like the jet engines are not efficient close to the surface at low altitude. So it will likely have 4 or 3 engines, meaning that you have 2 jet engines for the high altitude, and then you have a prop, turbine prop for the low altitude. And when it's close to the surface like this, it's sitting on air. That's why you can carry a lot of cargo, and at the same time the fuel efficiency is great. And to finish this project is, well, with any startup companies, you need money. And the reason I need money, I need to fill these positions, and so that I can get started on the research, more research, and actually I would like to build a prototype on the desert within another 1.5 years. And I already have a company whom I'm already talking to. They are a big manufacturer, airline modification company, that I don't have all the knowledge of and tools and personnel to do the modification on the airliners, and that requires a lot of FAA rules and everything else. But there is a company, and there are in the United States there are many companies who is capable of doing that. And so before I can, it's like building a house or building a building or apartment or anything. First, you have to know what you want, and then you put the design together, and then you hire some designer to make sure that all the design works properly, and then you give that to somebody who can actually build it. So that's what I'm doing. I will have the designs, and then I'll pass this on to a company who can actually, make this thing happen.
Okay, I have a question then. We have time for
Yes.
one more. Go ahead, you go
No,
first.
you go first.
No, you go.
So I was just wondering, you talk about wanting to have a prototype. Is it not more feasible to make a miniature model? I mean, you have this version, but maybe having a 10-foot version that's maybe flown not with the physical person, but remote control, just to test it with that theory on a smaller scale first?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, it's a valid question. Yes, we will do that, you know, but at the same time, we want to build the prototype too, because the model and the real one will also act differently. And the ground effect is a fear by everybody here, even the pilots, and even the aerospace scientists too. The reason being we fear is because we don't know too much. I mean, there's a lot of unknown things about ground effects, but it can be done. I mean, it will be done, and the more studies we do it, the more we'll know and more we'll be comfortable with it, and we'll be able to build a better ground effect vehicle that can transport people and cargo more safely.
All right, so I have a couple questions. First
Yes.
off, great story, coming over here, serving our country, I think that's awesome. So what is the cost just to get a prototype to get this thing going?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Since we'll be selecting, I mean, you can't use any airline parts or old airliners. You would have to have you have to meet a certain qualifications. And we'll be selecting there's a list. But anyways, to build something like this, let's say 700 people passenger ground effect vehicle, I estimated anywhere from, for sale wise, looking at sale price like $29 million, to build maybe $20 million. But for the prototype, I estimated to building it for like $10 million. I'm not trying to make up the whole new product here. Basically it's a two airliner put together, and all the functions and controls are same as an airliner. And I'm using a used one, not a new one, and we're making it into a new Airtrain. And as we all know, that a lot of the airplanes, you know, the old airplanes, they fly, they still fly. Even in the 1920s, you know, the airplanes, they all fly. Because as long as you take care of it.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you.